True Nightmare is known to be one of the most difficult modes to come up recently. It has a less than 1% completion rate on Game Jolt, and is rated number 22 on the main list. Leading up to No Post-Mortem with a whopping placement of number 13, right above Rat and Cat Theatre AC. However, this video will cover up a strategy and issues that most players commonly struggle with. Without further ado, let us begin the guide. Upon starting the night, the first step is to lure both Willie and Dippy into Cam 1 and then Cam 5. PNMickey starts at Cam 2, flashing her will cause her to retreat to Cam 8 where you will need to recurringly flash throughout the entire night. Noticed how I also switched camera to not only avoid Corruptus but to also combo her with Daisy. Which I'll explain how important that will be. After the first attic attack will be the first attacks from Photo Negative Mickey and Oswald, then it will be end of the night's introduction segment. After the introduction segment, I will introduce a method of defense I would call post-attic defense and the defense cycle I use against the camera entities. Now for the post-attic defense, there are two following variations. The first variation, which is the most common one, you will have to immediately flash Cam 8 upon opening the cameras, then lure into one of the three cameras. For the second variation, which doesn't occur too commonly but after the first attic attack, you need to lure Willie and Dippy first into the said cameras, then go on to flash PNMickey. Both variations end with erasing Belial and sometimes Photo Negative Mickey. For the music boxes, a common strategy is to keep Willie and Dippy at bay within these three cameras throughout the entire night. On at least 2 AM, you should switch to Cam 1, at least 4 AM, you should switch to Cam 7. If the music boxes run out too soon, you might as well restart unless you have a post-mortem. Upon shutting off a camera, it has around 34 seconds to turn on again. To differentiate between what cams are vital and which ones are not, here is an annotation. For misconceptions, it does not mean you should not shut off a vital camera, but it is not recommended unless you are in a super tight position. Now for the characters. I will explain them in order from the easiest to the most nerve-wracking. First off is Daisy, a non-lethal entity that will wail harder than your dad's lawnmower if dealt on accordingly. On 20A she appears after every 2 cam clicks. Unlike 1.0, you cannot switch cameras and you are unable to turn off the cameras. Switching the cameras or keeping her there for too long will cause her to disable your cameras for 8 seconds. It is recommended to combo her with Minnie at Cam 8 and keep in mind of your cam clicks so you can easily deal with her. Slester is also another non-lethal entity, but instead he disorientates the player's vision upon viewing him. He appears in 3 positions: upon the right side where you use the notepad, upon the middle where you use the monitor, and on the far left where you can enter the attic. His arrival is usually announced via a fade and will require you to move to an opposite side fully when he appears. There really isn't much explaining to do for Pete other than just don't be stupid. He's higher up on the list because he can be a bit difficult to detect sometimes, but after a bit of consistency you can learn the difference between Corrupted Face's poses and Pete's. Speaking of Corrupted Face, upon his first arrival towards the attic he always starts at the right side of the attic, and upon lighting his face he takes at least 1 second to change positions. He will only do this once however, and if he were to reappear he will be in the same position as he was when you rid him. Next is MickMick, who has gotten a pretty surprising buff for this update, yet still manageable, upon hearing his laughter. You will have to blink in order for him to go away. Blinking triggers a 5 seconds cooldown, so do not carelessly spam blink. This is the last of the attic entities, yet the beginning of irritating ones. You will hear dull banging to indicate that it has arrived. Upon arriving towards the attic, it will require you listen to the direction of the banging, try centering your lighter to clear more space at the direction you hear him and easily detect him. Only if you know how to exploit him correctly, he can't be that bad. Remember how I said that why comboing Minnie and Daisy is important. Corruptus can be stalled on 2 occasions. 1 if Daisy is on the same camera as Corruptus, and 2, while you are luring Dippy or Willie. If none of these conditions are met, then he will give you a 1-second window before he advances. He can advance about 4 times before he kills you, so watch out. I'm counting both of them for this one as they both act near identically. They announce their arrivals via a black fade, but to not get confused, for Slester they have their own respective sound cues. They are unable to progress to your office while you are in the attic. When they get into office, however, they will trigger a 4-second timer before jump scaring you. Like all other enemies we have discussed until now, they require the obvious factor known as speed. It is extremely crucial to lure them both together, especially for this mode, as one of them being out of reach can lead to a broken flow in the strategy and most likely death. Knowing they're out of camera in cam 7 or 1 is much easier than in cam 5, as an ambient noise gets produced indicating an animatronic is nearby. In my opinion, she has gotten under my skin the largest number of times when attempting this mode. If you want to know why I said the second variation for the post-attic defense is the most common, it is because of how aggressive PNMickey can be compared to all the other characters. Which is also why you see me consistently flash cam 8. When she ever manages to escape from cam 8, it becomes really difficult to put her back, as she can either escape to cam 2 or 7 and then she can escape to the other 3 cameras, so you are better off restarting. At this point of the run it becomes really stressful, as you need to make sure the flow and pattern is still stable as it was in the beginning of the run. Not only that, but also Slester messes your screen really badly at this point, which is an additional burden towards the player. Admittingly, yes, I do get a post-mortem in this run. However, I assure that I have already beaten this mode with no post-mortem and guarantee you this strategy works really well with good enough consistency and speed. Instead of showing gameplay of the post-mortem, I'm going to recap the entire strategy for this video. To start, we have the introduction. It follows a linear path of luring Dippy and Willie to cam 1 upon opening the camera, then to cam 5. Lashing Minnie at her starting camera, cam 2, then at cam 8, dealing with an attic entity, run the first variation for post-attic defense, and finally, deal with Oswald and PNM. After the introduction, you need to play these defense cycles throughout the entire night, with some minor breaks when the music boxes run out. Firstly, use up the music box at cam 5 until at least 2 am, then use up the music box at cam 1 until at least 4 am, finally, use the music box at cam 7 until 6 am, and here is the diagram of the vital and non-vital cameras to shut off. Now for the characters. To keep your run stable, keep Minnie's containment on cam 8 a priority, make sure Willie and Dippy are under the same camera upon luring them, pay attention to Slester to damage control the disorientation he adds to your screen. For the attic characters, if you recognize Pete, do not light him. If you recognize corrupted face, light the last position he was before he took off, right side if it's his first settlement. If you recognize or hear cabin face, pay attention to the direction where his eye is banging and search the area of the corresponding direction. Finally, pay attention to your cam clicks in order to not activate Daisy. Corruptus can be stalled if Daisy is on the same camera or while luring Willie and Dippy. Pay attention to Oswald or PNM's sound cue to acknowledge they're in your office, otherwise they can be stalled while you are in the attic. Thank you for sticking through the video, and if this strategy works really well for you, please let me know down below, as it motivates me to make more guides and strategies. Without further ado, let us continue the video. The ending cutscene will now be shown, so here is a spoiler warning in case you want to experience it for yourself.
You know, Jake, I really had my doubts about you. I mean, after everything that happened, after what they did, and then they send you here, who wouldn't? But you impressed me. You really did. I was angry at first. Angry about being lied to, about them putting me into that situation. I mean, they got me killed. Can you really blame me? And realizing that this had been happening over and over on a scope greater than anyone can ever comprehend. And I'm always the one who gets the worst of it. It was hard to let go. But I realized it eventually, that this was never going to end until we ended her. By the time I let go of everything and left that costume behind, I thought it was too late. You were gone, trapped in limbo. I started rebuilding myself slowly. I used whatever I could get my hands on. I knew it was a long shot, but if I had even the slightest chance of finally bringing her down, I had to take it. And then you showed up again. I knew this was what I had been waiting for, a second chance. I started leaving notes for you. I'd been observing those things for a while, and knew how to trick them, how to outsmart them. I knew she was getting desperate to get rid of you. I mean, this was probably the furthest you'd ever gotten. That's what I was getting nervous about. You really made her angry. But then, you did it. You did the impossible. You killed her. You know, it's funny, kind of. So it started because they needed another intern to come looking for me. All that time and all the times you were looking for me, I guess it's fitting I got to help you finish things. To repay you for that in the end. The nightmare's over for the most part anyway. I can't thank you enough, Jake. Truly. You might not even understand what you've accomplished ever. But just know, no matter what, that she won't haunt you or this island anymore. Years and years of things most can't even fathom. Monsters, haunted costumes, nightmarish cartoons, all those things. Finally over. Just like that. I think this is it, Jake. This is where you and Treasure Island finally part ways. This may seem weird, but I'm going to miss you. I really am. Goodbye.